Hello everyone. This latest video is going to be called Gameness Revisited, and nothing meant for illegal purposes. I'm not teaching anybody how to do anything illegal, nor do I encourage it. It's all historical facts. Sometimes I get graphic, or sometimes I speak as if it's in the present. It's not. It's just my way of talking. I don't have dogs anymore. I'm not around them anymore, except when we do confirmation shows, which I really enjoy, and legal sports. I've traveled all over, judging and doing all kinds of giving seminars and all that. So it's just for historical content and to give people a feeling of what it was like in the past, or what dogmen did in the past. Not all of them. And with the topic of gameness, it's always a heated topic. It's always debated. It's always opinionated. And I won't say that anybody else's opinion besides mine is wrong. And some people agree with my opinion. I'm not saying mine is the right way, but it's my opinion from experience and observation and dealing with game dogs. And not all dogs are game. In fact, most of them aren't, or weren't. So it gets heated sometimes. People argue. I don't argue, because nobody knows where gameness comes from. If you see it, you know it. You don't question it. And there's all kinds of circumstances where a dog can display that gameness in the traditional sense of the pit bull anyways. And that's what this topic is about. That's what this video is about. So we've all heard the metaphors, cliches, sayings, and adages and all that stuff about, some people say it's dominance. Some people say it's a unquenchable, it's a will of not giving up. It's perseverance in the face of danger, against all odds. All this stuff they say. And like I said, I'll give my opinion. I don't really debate it, even if I don't agree with someone, because that just leads to more arguments, if you will. But even when you're younger, and you see someone or something have heart, you recognize it. It brings chills to you, makes the hair stand up, gets you emotional, all that. And so it could be something in our own nature that we recognize it when we see it, because it's something that's displayed, and it's not something that's common, not even in the American Pit Bull Terrier. But when I came across this, it made sense to me. And it made sense in the sense that, I'm not going to argue the point. It's my definition. It's what I expected from a game dog. And it basically came from Frank Shy. An unquenchable thirst to finish an opponent. Now, if you just take some of those words on their face value and not in the context, you're going to argue, well, not all dogs have finish, and some dogs that don't have finish aren't game. Finish is a killing trait, not necessarily a fighting trait. Some people will say that. Some people generally look at gameness as taking punishment and not giving up, not quitting because of that, or fatigue, or go through frustration. All true. But for me, it's more than that. And the reason I say it the way I say it, and the way that it was said before me, is because, in my opinion, It didn't matter the circumstances to me. My dog was ahead or behind, rattled, shaken up, hurt, tired, hot, whatever. I wanted them to remain focused on the task at hand and continue trying to finish their opponent. That was very important to me. Stay focused on their opponent. Staying busy, staying in hold, never giving up. And some people will say, well, a lot of dogs that have a lot of ability and, have a lot of talent that can end it quick, those dogs aren't game. That's a thought from way in the past. Some of those dogs aren't. But that's not true in that sense, because there have been dogs like that were game. And at some point in their career, whether it was in their schooling or in a show, they displayed it. So that is out. There's also been dogs that are just stupid game, dumb game plugs, whatever. Display that gameness. But there's also dogs with those same few abilities that quit. So it's not that. But for me, gameness is the foundation of the breed. I tried to keep it in my dogs as much as possible. But there's a lot more to winning. If you're a breeder, you can take heavily inbred dogs and breed them, whether you cross them or line breed them, whatever, and produce high ability dogs. And that's been true throughout the history of the breed too. But it's not just that. You can have high ability dogs, talented dogs, hard-mouthed dogs, dogs with good air, dogs that are durable and rugged, that are game too and able to produce that as well. So when you're looking at the breeding aspect, you may want to set your foundation, right, of gameness. Once you have it set, you don't lose it. And you don't have to make the excuse that, I have to inbreed my dogs, or, I need this game plug like that, You can do that, but you don't have to, is what I'm saying. You don't have to do that. And top kennels don't do that. Someone who breeds and competed, bred and competed with their own dogs, they didn't do that. That's how you get to the upper level. You have dogs with talent, you have dogs with ability, you have dogs with heart, all in the same package. It's hard to get, and you may not get a lot of them. But if you continue with that, you're going to get more of them. You're always going to have dogs that quit. You're always going to have dogs that don't have ability. You're always going to have dogs that are cold, or you're going to have dogs that don't make the grade for whatever reason. Just don't accept them. Don't use them. Use the ones that do. You don't have to, I'll give this example. There's several bloodlines or several breeders that have inbred tight dogs. And when they cross them or loose line breed them, they throw high performance animals. But my thing with that is, okay, you made a breeding from those type of dogs. Let's say 2 plugs, you put them together, and from different bloodlines, you make that outcross, and they produce superior individuals. What are you going to do after that? You're going to inbreed it after that? You're going to go to one side or the other? Now you're going back to the plug, just a game dog. And my thing is, you don't have to do that. You don't have to accept those dogs. And I'm not saying you shouldn't use one once in a while, or you're not going to get them once in a while, but that should not be the standard of breeding. You may get dogs that are known mostly for gameness, because you know that a lot of them within that family of dogs don't quit. But as you move along, you can up that performance while retaining that gameness in your bloodline, in your family of dogs. You don't have to settle for that anymore. And I used inbred dogs. We bred 2 inbred Jeep dogs. They were not match quality dogs. And I got good performance from those breedings. But I never did it again. And there are inbred dogs that have high performance. Big Red Sire was that way. He was as good a match dog as you want. And he was brother-sister bred, inbred. There's dogs like Grand Champion Miss Rage. There's dogs like maybe L&M's Grand Champion Mickey, and his brother was a Grand Champion. They were brother and sister bred. So you can get dogs like that, high ability dogs like that, from inbreedings. It's just rare. And again, there's other ways to go about it. I'm not saying don't do that, but there's other ways to go about it to get those results or better without having to do that and still retaining the gameness. But if you're a competitor, you need high quality dogs. You need athletic dogs. You need high performance dogs. You need rugged, durable dogs with good constitution. And you can get that and continue to get that if you make the proper breedings. If you just stick to that, they have to be a certain quality. They have to be a certain level, or whatever you want to call it. You keep breeding them like that, you're going to get it. So that's where I differ from a lot of people. You know, everybody, like I said, has their interpretation or their observation or experience about gameness. For me, it's not a dog that just lays around and gets beat up. It's not a dog that doesn't have any ability and won't quit. That's not the kind of dog that I wanted. And I tried to breed dogs better than that. And like I said, sometimes you may use a dog like that, but you don't want to key on a dog like that. You don't want to make that dog your main dog. Because, again, as you continue with your breedings, some of them are going to end up like that. And just like you have high ability dogs that quit on top, or high ability dogs that are not game, or hard biters that quit, or whatever, you get the same thing with low ability dogs. You get the same thing with tight bred dogs with no ability and no mouth and no air. They still quit. So in my mind, I didn't think that way. I didn't breed that way. And you know, I had a lot of different standards that the dogs I used, at least for me, had to have. If they didn't, I wouldn't breed them. So that can be kept in your bloodlines almost continuously. Because if you lose it, then it's hard to get it again. If you never lose it, then you just continue with it. So on that note, I'll get into something else that is not really spoken about, and I've always contemplated for years and years. And that is, what does the physical attributes, you know, because gameness, most anybody will tell you it's in their mind. I won't disagree with that. Some people will tell you it's in their heart. That's the part of the physical part. But it's a mental state, and that's true. It has to be. But is it just that? No. Nope, can't be. Because a lot of these dogs that I've seen in the past that got broke down or went a long distance without getting hurt or any, you know, not very good shows that didn't quit, people called those dogs game. That's not the kind of dog I call game. Because if they had a chance to get up, who knows, they might take off running. If they did get hurt over 2 hours, they might not have gone 2 hours. And there are dogs that gone 2-3 hours that showed extreme gameness, but those dogs had to have ability also to go that distance. The gameness came into play, and that's the last thing that comes into play in a lot of different fights. Because ability and bite and all that, running out of air and getting tired, those things usually happen first. And the dogs either quit or they're picked up or whatever. But that display of true gameness where they stay focused on their opponent, don't take their eyes off their opponent, and stay there even when they're hurt, tired, and go through those heat spots and work through in dogged determination and unquenchable thirst to finish, that doesn't wane. So, do the physical traits of a dog have anything to do with their gameness? I guarantee you most people are going to say no, that don't matter. But my contention is, does it matter if your dog has good constitution, meaning that he's been bred for health and vigor and vitality and ruggedness and durability for generations? Is that in your family of dogs? Does he have big organs, if you will? Solid organs, not weak little tiny hearts. Does he have a heart that's supposed to be the size it is for an athlete? Does he have a healthy liver and kidneys? Does he have good solid bone structure, hard muscle, thick skin, good teeth that don't pop out of his mouth every time they're touched? What does the teeth have to do with gameness? Well, maybe nothing, but you'd rather have good teeth than not. And that's all part of the competition side of it. So do these physical traits have anything to do with gameness? I say they do. Because if you're so spindly, hollow-legged that every time they touch you, your bones break, you're not going to be game. When health and vitality and durability and constitution wane, when they lessen, gameness lessens too. Because you can't fight, you can't take punishment. You don't have the lung capacity to fight through it, which are all part of a show and all part of becoming what will be a display of gameness. Then yeah, the physical part matters. It has to. You want your animals to be sound. You want them to be tough. Well, tough is not just mental capacity. It's not just their temperament. It also has to do with physical traits. If your skin is so thin that every time something touches you, it cuts you open, that's not good. If your lung capacity is so small you can't go any amount of distance and you can't breathe, you're going to quit. If fatigue sets in and you can't recoup from that on the fly, then you're going to quit. So again, it's an argument I get all the time, because people are so focused on one thing, their mind, they don't want to quit no matter what. And that's what I wanted my dogs to be like. No matter what's happening, I don't want them to quit. Because a lot of things can happen. They can get hurt, they can get frustrated, they can get fatigued, they can run hot, they can get tired. But if they have that mental capacity that tells them, none of that matters, I'm going to get you no matter what, I'm going to scratch to you no matter what, I'm going to crawl to you no matter what, I'm going to beat you up no matter what, I'm going to kill you no matter what, then they have to have the physical tools to be able to do that. And if they don't have the physical tools, if a dog doesn't have the physical tools to be able to compete at that level, they're not very good dogs. That's not what I want. That's not what anyone should want, in my opinion, anyways. I try not to make excuses for my dogs, because excuses will lower your standards, and there's nothing wrong with keeping dogs like that, but breeding them is another subject. And as you do that, this is where the pedigree matters. You're building that pedigree of winners that have heart, of competition dogs, of champions, grand champions, tough, durable game dogs that have a lot of ability, have finish, have the physical tools to be able to do what they need to do. And that's a pedigree you can be proud of. You can do that generation after generation after generation. And that's what I tried to do. That's what other breeders tried to do and did it. And those are the examples that I paid attention to the most, that I admire the most, guys like that. Because again, it was in my mind that if they could do it, I could do it. And if I could do it, anybody can do it. It's just, are people willing to do that? Or are they going to say, oh, well, this, oh, well, you know, a game dog can throw good dogs? Yeah. But guess what? So can a high ability dog. And high ability dogs can be game too. So settle for that is my attitude. Don't settle for gameness. And I'm a stickler for gameness. I never wanted to lose it. And I wouldn't use dogs that didn't have it. But there's a lot more to competition than just a game dog. There's a lot more to competition than just a high ability dog that ain't game. And there's a lot more to competition than just breeding a bunch of dogs. And there's a lot more to breeding as well. Just breeding game dogs, just breeding high ability dogs. Do both. Very few people will say that. And sometimes the questions, aren't worded that way. The questions, even the ones I put out in my group, and sometimes they need to be worded differently. But the questions don't give you an option, and the reason they don't give you an option, it's one or the other, meaning they don't give you a third option, is because people want to see where people's mind is at concerning that subject. In my group, it was only game dogs. Would you want that, or would you want high ability dogs, even though you get less of them? The third option, and I left it out on purpose, was is having high ability dogs that are game too. And I did it for a reason, because it'll get people talking. It'll get, mostly everyone's going to say game dogs. But if you're a competitor and a breeder, or just a competitor, you need dogs you can win with. And there's been examples of basically just game dogs winning. That's true. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's been examples of dogs with high ability that weren't game that won, but there's a lot more to it than that. So you try and get that balance. And you don't get it on a large scale of one or the other. You don't get a lot of dogs with high ability that are game. You don't get a lot of dogs that are mostly game with not a lot of ability that can win. And within the two, you still get dogs that quit. High ability dogs that quit. Low ability dogs that quit. That's never been not like that. And, from the beginning, being that I like to study history and the breed and go through as much as I can, and I have a lot of literature and notes going back to the 1900s, that's what I noticed. Regardless of what was written, regardless of what people said, regardless of how they felt or gave their opinion or voiced what was on their mind, the record shows that people that were competitors, whether they were just a competitor or a breeder competitor, admired gameness, wanted gameness, needed gameness, but understood that it took a lot more than that to win. And that's what the record shows. Dogs finishing their opponent in short amount of time or in long distance, sometimes the same dog. And they said it graphically back then. She killed a dog in 32 minutes. He killed a dog in 22 minutes. He killed his opponent in 2 hours. She killed her opponent in an hour 15 minutes. This one went 30 minutes, 20 minutes, this and that. Name guys going into each other. So it wasn't just all about gameness as much as we would be led to believe, but gameness was so important that it was always at the forefront of the competition. But when you delve deeper into it, if you're able to talk to them or just look at the records of the dogs they're speaking of, the famous dogs, they were a lot more than just game. They had to be. Because even back then they knew, that you can't win just on gameness. You got to have other tools. So that's kind of something that has been brought up a lot. Like I said, it's always debated, even what people consider this is what a game dog is, and that's why I explain it the way I explain it. No matter what's happening, I want them to finish their opponent. Knowing that a dog that has finish and a dog that's a cannibal, let's say, or a dog that's a hard biter and can kill an opponent does not mean they are game. The same way, a dog that doesn't have finish, that doesn't have hard bite, that's not a cannibal, can be game. It's just what kind of dog do you want. It's not what kind of game do you want in your gameness do you want in your dog. There's only gameness or there's not, if you look at it in that way. But having one or the other or lacking one or the other doesn't mean the dog is game or cur. It's just, for me, that focus, that anger, if you want to say, that intent, I wanted that in my dogs. And if they had that intent, they had that focus, they had that drive, that killer instinct, then they had to be game too. Because I've had dogs that were finishers that weren't game. They killed their opponent in matches, but they ended up quitting later too. So that's not a prerequisite for gameness. It's just something that I liked and admired and wanted to have in my dogs along with the gameness. Just like if a dog didn't have finish, one of my dogs didn't have finish, even though it was a game dog or displayed gameness, I still wouldn't breed it. I wouldn't cull it in the traditional sense, and I might even match it, but I wouldn't breed it. So that's my definition of gameness, and that's what I expected from my dogs. But that physicality comes along with it. It has to. That's part of what they need to display that gameness, that instinct, that intensity, that anger. You need to have the tools to back it up. So let me know what you think. Always debated. No answer will be disrespected. And this will go on forever and ever. And, like I said, I usually don't argue the point. I'm not going to argue the point. Because nobody can pinpoint it. Nobody knows where it comes from. We just know it when we see it. And there's a difference of opinion even in that. What someone calls gameness, I might not call gameness. So it's always a hot topic. Again, thanks for everything. Thanks for all your support, purchases, likes on my videos, and subscriptions, and buying my merch. And there's more coming up. I'm going to have a couple more t-shirts coming up. I'm thinking maybe Mountain Man's Homer and my own Champion Bill. And, of course, still writing books. Visit us on Patreon, 78 Sports Dog Talk on Patreon. That's a good show. We also do a show on Sunday, 78 Sports Dog Talk on YouTube. And I have this channel, I'm on different chats sometimes, just doing what I love to do. And that's why they say all the time, thank you for your support, because I get a lot of good feedback. So let me know what you think about this. Give me some feedback on it too. More videos coming up. Thank you.